Hi, folks. Hope you're enjoying another beautiful day in Democrat delusion land where facts are optional, logic is suspended, and hypocrisy is a state religion. Today, we have Gavin Newsom, California's crown prince of pretense, claiming Prop 50 isn't about drawing lines on a map, which is funny because that's literally the only thing redistricting is. It's like saying cooking isn't about food. We also have Zohran Mamdani, who's decided that Elon Musk, Stephen Miller, and Donald Trump are the architects of authoritarianism. Apparently, Elon's crime was agreeing with Andrew Cuomo once, which to the Democrat Party is the same as building the Death Star, apparently. But today, we're starting out with Big Mike, who recently made a very interesting confession.
I want to be professional, at least I did. I wanted to be taken seriously, but there is the expectation there's a level of femininity to being the first lady. And as a black woman, I felt that I had to make sure that people could see my feminine side.
Well, that is certainly very interesting and not suspicious at all that a woman would have to try really hard to be feminine. It's not like femininity is something that naturally occurs in women, just as masculinity naturally occurs in men. But yeah, if you're not left asking questions, folks, then maybe you're not really listening. This is the same Michelle Obama, by the way, who spent the last few years turning every public appearance into another chapter in the book of perpetual victimhood. Now she's being victimized because she had to demonstrate femininity, as if grace, elegance, or maternal strength are oppressive burdens instead of natural expressions of womanhood. What this really shows is how deeply identity politics has infected the Democrat Party. They've turned authenticity itself into a performance. Every trait, every tone, every gesture filtered through the lens of race, gender, and grievance. Instead of elevating femininity, they dissect it. Instead of embodying strength, they narrate struggle. It's not empowerment, folks. It's just pure branding. And that, folks, is why the Democrats keep losing touch with reality. When you start treating biology like a social costume, everything, even womanhood, becomes just another political prop. It also makes you think, why would a woman have a hard time demonstrating femininity? I think we all have the answer to that question. And while we're on that topic, somebody who has no answers to any questions whatsoever is Zohran Mamdani. Yet, amazingly enough, he's about to be elected mayor of New York City. Who could have seen that one coming, except anybody who's been looking at the Democrat Party for the last decade?
These things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city. Because as you've said, the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got, and this morning he started it by going on Fox and Friends. We're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects in many ways of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing.
Wow. And
Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose checks that he's busy cashing trying to get back to City Hall.
So literally anybody who's even slightly to the right of center is now an authoritarian Nazi. Okay, all right, I get it. This is a new reflex of the Democrat Party. Well, they've been doing this for a while. Let's be honest. They label, shame, and smear instead of debating. But if we were to actually look at politics honestly, Democrats would have to admit that Donald Trump's positions are basically the same ones Ronald Reagan held. Relatively moderate standard Republican views. Trump has openly gay cabinet members. He's accepted gay marriage. He supports a Reagan-era stance on abortion, leaving it up to the states. That's not radical conservatism. That's not authoritarianism. That's textbook federalism. Yet somehow, in the Democrat fever dream, that makes him Mussolini. And here's the irony. If Trump were truly an authoritarian, he wouldn't need Congress. He could literally end the government shutdown that we have going on right now by snapping his fingers. The very fact that Democrats are currently obstructing the reopening of the government and smearing him nonstop proves he's not what they claim he is. So what we're seeing here isn't an analysis of power from Mamdani. It's just pure projection. Democrats cry authoritarianism every time they lose control of the narrative because control is what they actually crave. And that's not democracy, by the way. It's just ideological insecurity masquerading as moral outrage.
Question affordability in this city. Living here is top of everyone's mind. It has gotten obscenely expensive to live here, to do anything here. So you're proposing free grocery stores, free buses, $30 minimum wage, all of which sounds incredible.
Cheaper groceries, not free groceries.
Excuse me, cheaper groceries.
Wait a minute.
What people want to know is, great, I would love all those things.
Yeah,
how do you pay for it? Who's going to end up footing the bill for those programs?
So I'll answer that question by first explaining some of the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has received.
Great. Now, not only is Mamdani walking back his promise to give New Yorkers free groceries, but he's also dodging the actual question. Great job, New York. You're doing a terrific job electing a self-proclaimed taquilla enjoyer who's about to drive the city straight into the ground. This guy has no clue what he's even talking about. He's already backpedaling on one of his core campaign promises, the same state-run grocery stores he pitched as a solution to the New York affordability crisis. And he's doing this on Election Day, before even stepping foot in office. If he's already rewriting his platform now, what do you think happens once he's sworn in? How long until the mask slips and the real agenda comes out? So what we're seeing isn't just one politician flip-flopping, it's the modern progressive playbook in action. Promise utopia, dodge accountability, then quietly rewrite reality when the math doesn't work. It's the same fantasy economics that's bankrupted entire cities like Detroit and Los Angeles, gutted trust, and turned political idealism into pure performance art. New York doesn't need another ideological experiment. It needs adults who understand that free isn't actually free. And socialism always sends the bill to the working class if it doesn't end up literally slaughtering them.
I look forward to utilizing every single tool at my disposal as the next mayor of this city to fight for the people of it. That means using the courts, that means using the bully pulpit, that means ensuring that we actually follow the letter of the law. And I know that doing so is something that threatens Donald Trump. It's why he's gone after Attorney General James, because she had the audacity to hold him to the same law that every New Yorker is held to. But I will not be intimidated by this president. I will not be intimidated by anyone, because my job here is to serve the people of the city.
So let me see if I get this straight. Zohran Mamdani went from promising free groceries and free buses to now declaring that he's going to weaponize the New York City government to fight Donald Trump, like Tish James before him. Yeah, this worked out great so far. This is exactly what I predicted months ago, folks. Another local Democrat turning municipal politics into a personal crusade against the president. This isn't governance, it's just pure theater. And what we're witnessing is a slow-motion civil war inside the country where blue cities are openly defying federal authority under the banner of justice. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe in federalism. States and cities have autonomy, their own constitutions, and that's part of what makes America unique. But there's a line between local control and insurrection-level defiance of national law. And these mayors, like Mayor Karen in L.A., Mayor Johnson in Chicago, and now soon-to-be Mayor Mamdani in New York, I guess, keep crossing it. They're not serving their literal citizens. They're using them as political props in a symbolic war against Trump and the federal government. The result is just chaos. Cities collapsing to crime, debt, and division, while their mayors pretend that the real enemy is Trump and the White House. It's the politics of distraction, and it's destroying America from the inside out.
I just want to ask everyone in this crowd, if you can raise your hand if you have been called a terrorist while living in this city.
Of course.
If you can raise your hand.
Never forget, folks, these are the real victims of 9/11, not the thousands who died, not the families who lost loved ones, but the people raising their hands right now at this Zohran Mamdani rally. Those apparently are the ones we're supposed to be mourning for. Never forget has taken a whole new meaning in the modern Democrat Party. It's become shorthand for forget everything that actually happened and reframe history through the lens of perpetual victimhood. This kind of moral inversion is insane, but it's also deliberate. Democrats thrive on emotional manipulation, on recasting cultural trauma as evidence of systemic oppression rather than confronting who actually committed those acts or why. It's not about unity or healing, it's about power through guilt. And the fact that this rhetoric lands with people shows how successful decades of ideological conditioning have been through universities, media, and activism that teach people to view America not as a nation attacked, but as a nation to blame for literally everything bad in the world. That's not progress, folks. That's national amnesia through Marxism masquerading as compassion.
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters. with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
So let me see if I got this straight. The same side that's been firebombing Tesla dealerships since the beginning of the year, assaulting conservatives, murdering Charlie Kirk, and then attempting to assassinate Donald Trump, is now saying Trump is to blame for bomb threats. The gaslighting is off the charts here, folks. These are the same Democrats who burn cities down in the name of justice and then claim moral high ground when chaos erupts. And the irony here, talking about baseless claims of voter fraud, is almost too much to take. What's baseless exactly? You can literally look at the ballot in New York City right now and see Zohran Mamdani's name appearing twice at the top, Andrew Cuomo buried at the bottom, and Curtis Sliwa listed twice alongside Mamdani's. You think that's all a coincidence? You think that's fair representation, or just another classic case of election engineering designed to confuse voters and tilt the field in one direction? Democrats have perfected the art of projection. Accuse your opponent of the very thing you're doing. And this is the bigger point, folks. Trump doesn't control state elections. These are local officials, Democrat-run cities, Democrat-controlled boards. The narrative that he's somehow orchestrating threats or voter intimidation is not just dishonest, it's strategic. It's how they justify tighter control, more censorship, and less transparency under the banner of protecting democracy. And speaking of crooks, here we have Nancy Pelosi going full-blown TDS.
He's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
Wow.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah. I do.
Wow.
Why is that?
Because he's the President of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In
Where's
fact,
your evidence?
He's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives.
That has to be one of the most bizarre clips I've ever seen in my life. Nancy Pelosi starts out looking completely detached, staring off camera, mumbling like she's having flashbacks to Apocalypse Now, whispering, the horror, as if she's meeting Marlon Brando's ghost. Get a grip, Nancy. You spent decades in Congress enriching yourself on the backs of Americans, cutting insider stock deals, and presiding over one of the most corrupt political machines in the history of this country. You personally oversaw California's redistricting process recently and are ensuring that you stripped citizens of fair representation, and now you have the audacity to call Donald Trump, who's been in politics for a fraction of your career, the worst thing on the face of the earth? The projection is staggering. You accuse him of dismantling Congress when you've been the architect of its entire decay. You claim he dishonors the Constitution while your own party treats it like a rough draft. This isn't moral outrage, folks. It's narcissistic delusion from a political class so insulated, so addicted to its own power, that it can no longer distinguish governance from performance. Pelosi doesn't fear Trump because he's vile. She fears him because he reminds Americans what their government used to look like before people like her turned it into their personal self-enriching machine. But crazy Nancy didn't stop there, folks. She later went to a Gavin Newsom Prop 50 rally and just went more dementia on everybody.
It's clear that this governor has a vision for our country. He has knowledge of our country and our state. The state of California, the fourth largest economy in the world. Gavin manages that with great dignity. He has strategic thinking about how to get things done, and that is what has brought us together here. When this opportunity occurred, Gavin had a plan. He's a man with a plan, and that's what brings us here today.
This is actually so unironically insane. Nancy Pelosi is saying that Gavin Newsom has a vision for our country, that he governs with dignity and strategic thinking. Really? Is that why he turned California into a dystopian showcase of decline? There's a clear before and after with Gavin Newsom here in California. Before, California had a thriving middle class, small businesses, and an economy that, while imperfect, it was still functional. Now it's a state hemorrhaging residents with over 2.5 million people leaving in the last few years, a record deficit in the tens of billions, and a homelessness crisis that's exploded under his watch. Cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles look like open-air rehab centers. The middle class has almost completely vanished, and the only population growth comes from illegal immigration. That's not managing with dignity. That's literal managed decay. And the fact that Pelosi, his actual aunt, by the way, is out here playing campaign surrogate just proves this is a family business masquerading as public service. The Gettys bankroll it, Nancy blesses it, and Gavin sells it to America as a vision. If this is his plan for the country, folks, this isn't leadership. This is a contagion. California is a test case. America is next. Oh yeah, but the cope didn't stop with Aunt Nancy. No. Gavin trotted out his partner, I guess. She doesn't call herself his wife.
And I will tell you right now, I will not raise my children to think Donald Trump is an acceptable American leader.
What?
Nor that he is what the leader of our great country should behave like. Yes. I won't raise them to think his terror enables his power and that his greed equals success. He is the exact opposite of what real strength looks like. So in our house, Gavin and I will continue to teach our kids what strength really looks like. If you see someone sitting alone at a table, you invite them to your table. If you see someone being bullied, you speak up and ask an adult for help. And you always tell the truth. Maybe if Donald Trump's parents had taught him any of these lessons, we wouldn't be in this mess. On the contrary, Trump is enriching his immediate family and cronies. He is stripping away our rights and our democracy. When he knows he's going to lose, he cheats. When the game isn't rigged for him, he rigs it himself. Sometimes no is a full sentence. Trust me. That's right. But Donald Trump's never accepted no for an answer. He's a con artist, a predator, a malignant narcissist.
Wow.
In chief, and the worst president in our nation's history.
Since Gavin Newsom's wife wants to pathologize Donald Trump, calling him a malignant narcissist, let's talk about what we're actually dealing with here. According to court documents from the Weinstein case, Jennifer Siebel Newsom had a sexual encounter with Harvey Weinstein that she later described as transactional. Something she did to get ahead in her career. Those aren't my words, folks. That's literally the record. So if we're pathologizing behavior, what exactly does that make her? Because using sex as a weapon, as a career tool, isn't strength. It's just moral rot. Sociopathic, some would say. But that's par for the course in the Newsom household, apparently. Gavin himself cheated on his wife with his campaign manager's wife, admitted to alcohol abuse while still drinking, and was accused by members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors of cocaine abuse. These are the people lecturing America on truth and strength, folks. It's grotesque hypocrisy wrapped in moral theater. And the worst part is she's using her own children as props for political messaging instead of teaching them basic civic respect, like acknowledging that even if you dislike a president, you still honor the office. Democrats have abandoned that idea entirely because division is their strategy. It's classic divide and conquer. Keep Americans angry, emotional, and split by identity so they never notice the corruption right in front of them. The Newsoms don't care about truth or unity. They care about control, optics, and power. And if you doubt what I'm saying even for a second, I mean, just look at what Gavin Newsom said yesterday.
249 years, the best of Roman Republic, Greek democracy, separation, the branches of government, co-equal branches of government, checks and balances, popular sovereignty, the rule of law, those enduring principles that our founding fathers lived and died for, all of them on the line today. And so I want to thank you. This is a long-winded way of wrapping up. I want to thank you for standing on this line at this moment. Prop 50 is not about drawing lines on a map. It is about holding the line to what makes us who we are. And so,
like I said, folks, this is damn near sociopathic. Gavin Newsom is out there saying Prop 50 isn't about drawing lines on a map when that's literally what it's about, drawing district lines. It's about him and his party deciding who gets to represent which district, consolidating power in a way that would honestly make Venezuela blush. This is how modern authoritarianism works, folks. It doesn't announce itself with soldiers and tanks. It comes wrapped in lofty rhetoric about democracy and representation while quietly redrawing the system to guarantee permanent rule. Newsom is branding Prop 50 as if it's about restoring fairness to Californians, but what it actually does is strip them of real electoral choice. California used to pride itself on being a laboratory of innovation. Now it's a laboratory of political manipulation, testing how far the ruling class can bend the rules before people actually notice. So what we're witnessing is a slow suffocation of self-government under the guise of protecting it. Needless to say, it's never been more evident that the Democrat political class does not care about you folks. They hate you. They will steal elections, strip away your rights, and paint you as a problem, all while smiling to your face and insisting it's for your own good. In reality, they're just consolidating power, making themselves richer and more untouchable at your expense. And the worst part, well, they've built an entire culture to make you doubt your own instincts, to make you believe that corruption is compassion, that censorship is safety, and that blind obedience is some sort of virtue. So ask yourself, how many times will you let the same people lie to you before you stop pretending it's accidental? How much more freedom are you willing to lose in exchange for the illusion of progress? Because at some point, folks, silence stops being neutrality and it becomes consent. And the longer Americans keep mistaking propaganda for leadership, the more we risk waking up in a country we no longer recognize. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. You have a terrific day. Peace.